I'm here with Walter Isaacson. What are we looking at?
We're looking at the first draft of the Declaration of Independence, the one done by Thomas Jefferson in committee with John Adams and Benjamin Franklin. It may have been the last time Congress appointed a really great committee, but they're doing 5 different drafts of the Declaration of Independence.
And this is the very first one, and it's all. And so, what's significant about this?
Well, first of all, you look at the first paragraph and you discover what it is they're trying to do. It says a decent respect for the opinions of mankind. So basically, this is them trying to do a propaganda document in a way, one that sort of says, here's why we're having this revolution. So they're explaining it to the world. Why are we having this revolution?
And just as a little bit of historical background, the revolution had already started. We're already at war with Great Britain.
We were at war with Great Britain, but it wasn't totally a revolution until this document, because this is the first time it says we are rebelling against the king. Before this document came out, we were fighting, and we were fighting with the British about the taxes they imposed, and we the Americans, were blaming it on the ministers and the people who are running the government in England, but we weren't necessarily rebelling against the king. In this document, we say we're going to be free and independent and separate from the King of England.
And so that was kind of the true declaration of war. Before it was, hey, ministers, the government, it's okay to disagree with. But when you start questioning the king.
Yeah, that's something new, which was questioning the king. And that meant we were going to be totally separate, as opposed to just fighting the current ministers of England.
Interesting. And so what are these? I mean, I'm fascinated by what they decided to actually edit out and replace it with. What is going on up here?
I think the most amazing thing is this great second paragraph, where you see Jefferson write, we hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable.
So that's what's scratched out here?
That's what's scratched out, sacred and undeniable. And sacred, it makes it sound like the truths come from God, that they come from religion. And what you see is this crossing out that most of us think Benjamin Franklin did, because those are sort of his slashes, because he was a printer and he used a heavy black pen and he used a backslash the way printers do. And he writes in the words self-evident instead of sacred.
And that's interesting. So we don't know for sure that it was Franklin who did this?
No, but most of the scholars think it's Ben Franklin's backslashes. I do, because I've spent a lot of time looking at Ben Franklin's original papers, which are in the Yale University Library. And so I'm used to his penmanship. I'm used to the way he uses, backslashes. And to me, that's pretty distinctively Ben Franklin. Carl Becker and other great historians also believe that was Ben Franklin's edit.
I see. And it's also the nature of the edit. What he decided to cross out and replace it with is also in the spirit of Benjamin Franklin.
Absolutely. He uses the word self-evident. Self-evident means that we're believing in rationality and reason as a way to figure out what truths we hold. And that was very Ben Franklin-like. He was a student of David Hume, who was the Scottish Enlightenment thinker who always used the phrase self-evident, and even of Isaac Newton, because Ben Franklin was a great scientist, and he believed that there were certain truths that just come from nature and are self-evident. You can just look at nature and understand them. So those are phrases he would have used. They don't really come from John Locke, which is the source of inspiration of what Jefferson was writing. They come from sort of the Scottish Enlightenment and David Hume, and from Sir Isaac Newton. So it feels like Ben Franklin.
Fascinating.
One of the things about history is sort of trying to figure out, who's making it and how, looking at documents, and just getting a feel for, they were sitting in a small room on Market Street in Philadelphia in 1776 trying to edit this thing.
Wow. No, this is fascinating stuff.
Another interesting thing is they play with the phrase, they're endowed with certain inalienable rights. And then you see John Adams's, I think, influence, endowed by their creator, is in this draft. It's written in. And you can see the John Adams influence where he's also balancing the role of divine providence, our creator, with self-evident truths. So it's not like they're saying it all comes from religion or none comes from religion. It's a great balance between what truths are self-evident, but there are things that come from all of us being equal in the eyes of our Creator.
So this is where they wrote it. They are endowed by their Creator with, and then this says...
Well, it says, it ends up saying with certain inalienable rights.
Okay, but this draft, it's a little bit
Yes,
hard to read.
it's a little bit hard to read, but inalienable rights means rights that you can't take away from people. It's interesting, too, that they say they don't refer to God, and they certainly never refer to Jesus Christ in the document. They refer to their Creator. And I think they're trying to be very inclusive because Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson were deists. They believed that there was an ultimate creator of the universe, but they were not very specific about religion, of a particular type of dogma or religious beliefs.
Yeah, they didn't say by God, nor do they say kind of their Creator with a capital C.
Right. It's actually interesting. The capitalization in this document goes back and forth, as it often did in the 18th century. Jefferson never capitalizes creator, but I think when John Adams writes it, you can sometimes see it's capitalized. And I think in the final document, it's usually capitalized.
I see. So it is kind of...
Well, you can see that they don't have a specific way of doing it. But this is why it's so wonderful. You're reminded these are real flesh and blood people sitting in a room trying to balance the role of divine providence and the role of rationality and reason in giving us our rights. And they're fiddling with the words and doing it by committee.
Oh, yeah, right here. Actually, I was looking for the inalienable rights. It's right here. The inalienable, inherent, and inalienable rights. And you can see it. I mean, it's literally like, you're editing a paper of mine. I mean, people
and they're taking out the phrase inherent because it doesn't really add much to it. The important thing is you cannot give up those rights, nor can the king take those rights away. That's what they're trying to emphasize.
Fascinating.